Hi, I'm Lee Camp, and this is your moment of clarity. Today's topic, boys and girls, is called conflict of interest. And by boys and girls, I mean those of you out there who are Supreme Court justices. Now, don't be scared by the phrase conflict of interest. I know it sounds big and confusing, but we'll get through this. Conflict of interest is when something in your life has the possibility to corrupt your motivation in another area. For example, if you're a doctor in charge of prescribing medication, but you're also given gifts from the drug companies, that's called a conflict of interest. If you're telling people that the president is part of a cabal of Muslim space aliens set on destroying the value of the dollar, and then you also shill for gold coins during the commercial break, Glenn Beck, that's called a conflict of interest. If you give no-bid contracts to a company while you're getting paid by that company, Dick Cheney, that's called a conflict of interest. If you're running for president and you weren't blessed with a cerebral cortex, Michelle Bachmann, then that's technically not a conflict of interest, but it kind of sucks for you. Are you starting to catch on? If you are a Supreme Court justice and at the same time you are receiving money and gifts from corporations that have cases appearing before your court, then that's called what? Clarence Thomas, did you have your hand raised? No, cool is not the answer. It's not cool. In fact, it's the opposite of cool. It's called a conflict of interest. In fact, it's a conflict of interest on the same level as a lifeguard who's also a shark. Or a politician who gets money from for-profit prisons and then makes the laws that put the people in prison. Or a plastic surgeon who gave you your tits and then judges the wet t-shirt contest that you're a finalist in. Or a graham cracker and chocolate salesman who has a monopoly on marshmallows and matches. Or a police officer who's in the Klan. Or a Supreme Court justice deciding the 2000 presidential election when he has family members who work on the Bush campaign. Or a Supreme Court justice who has a wife who is one of the top people in the Fox News created Tea Party and who speaks publicly and loudly about issues her husband will ultimately rule on. Or a boa constrictor who works at a doggy daycare. Point is, Clarence Thomas must resign. He's making a mockery of our system that until he showed up had only been a gigantic joke. Now he's turned it into the Annie Hall of judicial systems. It's a fucking Oscar-winning comedy. In 1969, Justice Abe Fortas resigned in disgrace after playing the same kind of games. And now it's time for the dishonorable Mr. Thomas to follow suit. Don't worry, I'm sure there are plenty of jobs in the Tea Party. And I heard doggy daycares will hire just about anyone. Anyway, that's your moment of clarity. I've been Lee Camp. Get more of these at leecamp.net. Also, Moment of Clarity is now finally a podcast. It's a 10-minute podcast. It comes out 3 times a week. It includes this rant along with some backstage footage, if you will. And you can get that also at leecamp.net. Thanks a lot.
We got no plans at all. Evil man's always transcending. Fighter like sheep, swallow everything. Always simpletons or pretending. We got no plans at all. Evil man's always transcending.